shaken from beautiful lives. They sold a poison, called it peace of mind. Turned our neighbors into loaded mines. See the tremor in the toughest hands, quiet shaking while the sirens chant. I see you flinch when the headlines scream, but I'm right here, you're not what they preach. When the shame crawls in like it owns your skin, I'll tear that mask out, drag you back in. We do not kneel, we stand. shaken from beautiful lives. They sold a poison, called it peace of mind. Turned our neighbors into loaded mines. See the tremor in the toughest hands, quiet shaking while the sirens chant. I see you flinch when the headlines scream, but I'm right here, you're not what they preach. When the shame crawls in like it owns your skin, I'll tear that mask out, drag you back in. We do not kneel, we stand
yeah, we're gonna scrap a bunch of that and just make up this new shit. And I was like, no. Yeah.
Mhm. Okay.
So that
Maybe
was,
we don't
that's
actually
where
need
my,
to listen to these ones, since
okay.
they're going to be way outside of things. And if Mags is not going to bring them in.
Hey, Enoch.
Okay.
Ta-da.
Cappadocious at all. The clandestine and isolated clan Banu Hakim, also known as the Assamites or the Clan of the Hunt,
Heyo.
represents the archetypal
What's up, Sasuma?
Orient type vampire that is like from the Orient. That's like a thing. I mean, yeah, technically all vampire clans are from the Middle East because that was where the first city was located. I have a personal fascination with the Banu Hakim. I love them very much, and they are sort of modeled after the historical assassins, down to the idea that they live in like an isolated mountain fortress called Alamut. And though they do kill people...
Huh? Yeah.
Like from John Wick. So
Yeah, basically. That's why they were called Assamites. It was a very easy, like, oh, you mean the clan named Assamites are assassins? Go figure. They really hated it when I called them Assamites.
nice. Love me some
Oh.
Vegemite.
And Assamites really had a hate boner for the Tremere too. They had cursed them with a blood curse, preventing them. Huh? Oh. Hold on a moment. What's up, Red? Okay. No, I can hear you. You're coming through on my stream.
Cat, am I muted? There we go. Okay. Now I'm not.
Well, if they can't hear you, they can't tell you if you're muted.
Right. Okay. I'm good. Let's go.
People for money, their main intended role in vampire society is as a sort of law enforcement. This is also one of the main groups that they like to embrace from, specifically investigators, because they have this drive to hunt down, if you will, the truth, and a propensity for self-sacrifice for a higher cause. They also like to get learned people, scholars on board if they prove that they have a lot of dedication to what they do over like an extended observation period. They also kinda used to like not embrace women. After Banu Hakim has been embraced, they are subjected to a rigorous 7-year training program followed by another 7 years of indenture to their master. And if they fail any of the test, or if they show any amount of disobedience, their master straight up just kills them. Probably involving diablerie too, which is one of the reasons why the Banu Hakim have had a fairly strained relationship with the Camarilla at times, because in the Camarilla, that is considered the absolute worst crime a vampire could possibly commit. The clan has access to the disciplines blood sorcery, which is like the same thing that the Tremere have, the blood magic, celerity, which is super speed.
You know, I wanted to bring that up since they brought it, since he mentioned it. I think that the only reason the Camarillas consider diablerie such a high crime is because they don't want to be eaten.
No, yeah, that's exactly why.
The people who made the laws
exactly
were like,
why.
yeah, don't eat us.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. It's because, I mean, if you think about this from like a social perspective, right? Imagine I go into a friend group and I literally eat the person who's the alpha. And then I'm like, well, now you guys have to listen to me because I ate him. It's like...
It's only a matter of time before you work your way up the ladder. So
exactly, yeah.
Blake could say, yeah, no eating people.
Yeah, because it's not a thing where it's like, oh, we're going to exile him from the group or whatever. It's like, no, you're physically eating them.
Welcome in, Sky.
Welcome, welcome.
and obfuscate, which allows them to become undetectable. In earlier editions, they kind of had 3 different loadouts for disciplines because they had a warrior, a vizier, and a sorcerer caste. And their thing wasn't the same discipline as the Tremere, they had their own thing. It did have a greater focus on, like, blood magic in the actual literal sense of controlling blood, which in a vampire society you can imagine how scary that is. Their clan bane has changed a lot over the years for lore reasons. Currently it is the overwhelming urge when they taste the blood of another vampire to diablerize that vampire because they are attracted fundamentally to the blood of evildoers that need to be punished. And in a sense, being a vampire is such an unbelievable transgression against the natural order that it makes that irresistible for the Banu Hakim. Now, it used to be that each of the 3 castes had their own little clan bane, but the one they all shared was that their skin would grow darker with age. This is a real thing that used to be the case, and I guess someone at some point figured out that this isn't like the best idea to have. Like, it's ever so slightly a little bit problematic. In line with their bane is their compulsion to pass judgment. If someone that they know or in their presence does something that they consider to be unethical, they will feel an urge to drink from them, to enact punishment by taking some of their blood. Which, of course, given that they're usually surrounded by vampires, would lead to the problematic situation of it triggering their clan bane. The Banu Hakim Antediluvian is a guy called Hakim. And the story that the Banu Hakim tell about him is that he basically embraced himself as a mortal by killing 2 immensely powerful vampires of the 2nd generation as punishment for their corruption. Some claim that his goal is to exterminate all vampires, which is almost definitely not true, but it's a convenient way to say, oh, those damned foreigners. Some notable Banu Hakim include Urshulgi, who rather recently awoke from torpor and looked around, just immediately took control of the clan and said, hang on, who is this Islam guy, and why are you worshipping him instead of Hakim?
Yeah.
Repent your idolatry or you will be destroyed immediately, which has kind of led to a schism that is currently plaguing the clan, where a lot of Banu Hakim sort of went to the Camarilla. Fatima al-Fakadi, who for a time was one of their most effective assassins, and probably the first...
That's my only issue with including the Banu Hakim, or Assamites, whatever you want to call them, as a clan. There's a lot of IRL political stuff that can be misconstrued. And I like them conceptually, but either I'm going to ignore the political stuff, you know, for the sake of just having fun, and then someone's going to call me out for it, or I'm going to hit hard on it, and then someone's going to call me out on it. So, from my perspective, it's like it's a double-edged sword. You know, I'm using that euphemism because, you know, Assamite. But yeah, I just wanted to put that out. That's why I'm not a big fan of them, and it's not because I don't like them. It's because there's a lot of in our current climate, there's a lot of political stuff attached to those notions.
It wasn't really an issue years ago.
It really wasn't.
It's an issue now.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I just wanted to touch on that in case Dax was curious. Why I was kind of like, are you sure you want to do that?
I got you.
Are you sure? I'll let you, but are you sure? Anyways, go ahead.
Woman to ever be embraced into the clan, and Montgomery Coven, who is a very young Sabbat-aligned or formerly Sabbat-aligned Banu Hakim, who through sheer luck in the early 1990s managed to become immensely powerful by diablerizing Mithras, the Ventru Prince of London. The nomadic and deceitful clan Ravnos, also known as the Haunted or the Clan of Seekers, is supposed to represent the vampiric archetype of, how do I say this? How do I best put this? They're gypsies. They're basically gypsies. The idea is that they're gypsies that will sneak into your house at night and drink your blood. Look, you have to consider that the Vampire the Masquerade, the first book, came out in 1991.
They're terrible.
Cultural, sensitivities were a bit different back then. We're talking about, White Wolf, which even in 1994, which was a few years after Vampire came out, published this, World of Darkness Gypsies.
Yes,
that's the
I
book,
had that book
where they had a real-life category of minority groups that they took and made them mechanically distinct magical beings, distinct from humans in the same way that, vampires or werewolves or changelings are in the World of Darkness lore. Which is, wild that they thought this was a cool thing to do even back then. But yes, the core of the Ravnos clan is of and traveling with, usually, the various different ethnic groups descended of the Roma. In the West, at least. They're a whole different clan in India that basically has very little to do with the rest of the world. Especially the new edition has changed a lot of the baggage that comes with this without having to retcon anything into reframing them a little bit as trickster, daredevil type people. And just going away from it.
Mags.
Mm-hmm.
You want to talk to Dax about the Ravno a little bit? I have to step away for a moment because
sure, no worries.
Being a pain and nagging me.
No worries. So you don't want to play them? No,
Yeah,
but
they sound debilitated from the jump.
well, what's really cool about I'll be honest, very similar to the Assamites or the Banu Hakim. They're very politically sensitive now, and I think they've tried to fix that, but I also think them trying to fix it makes it worse, because essentially what they wanted was a supernatural kind of illusionist or con man.
Mm-hmm.
And they went with Romani people, which I originally when I read it, because I actually do have the same book too, the World of Darkness Gypsies, I was like, oh, this is cool, because I actually like the Romani people. I have friends that are Romani, so I was like, hey, cool,
Gotcha.
But on the same vein, they also released, I think, another year later called World of Darkness Mafia, and I was kind of like, okay, this is getting redundant. We're just taking groups of people and turning them into playable types. You know what I mean? It's like what's next? World of Darkness Native Americans or something. Because I was like, this is it's getting a bit redundant. But anyways, they're pretty cool. What I like about them the most, though, is that they have powers of illusion, and when they get their powers high enough, their illusions actually manifest in reality. So it's pretty cool. Nice. Gold for XP World of Darkness. World of Darkness Native Americans, isn't that a while they wrote werewolves? I was actually kind of making a joke on that, but I didn't want to. Gold for XP.
It is awful close.
Yeah, because I was telling Dax about how they made a World of Darkness Mafia line, book, I should say, that came out around the same time as the Gypsies one. And I was kind of like, are we just taking random groups of people and turning them into splat books? And I said World of Darkness Native Americans.
Specific, they did a Mind's Eye Theater book that was about, whatchamacallit, the Farah, about the Pumonka changing breed that was supposed to be specifically Native Americans.
No, yeah.
I mean, that's pretty on the fucking nose now.
I agree, yeah. Maybe a bit too on the nose.
I mean, I had the book. I love that book. But, I never got a chance to play one, though.
Ethnicity for him, I mean, those are really the preferred group that the Ravnos embrace from. Adrenaline junkies and, social outcasts that manage to make their own way in life. Trailblazers, unperturbed with the strict rules of polite society, who like to pull pranks every once in a while, have a good sense of humor, and want to use their eternal unlife to actually see something of the world. In other words, absolute legends. The clan has access to the
Absolute
disciplines
legends.
animalism, which is control over animals, obfuscate, which allows them to become undetectable, and presence, which is alluring charisma. The latter two form the amalgam power called chemistry, which used to be actually a discipline that they had, along with fortitude. Once again, a change I'm not particularly happy with for blah 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 reasons we've already gone into. But basically, chemistry allows them to create illusions to fool other people. Their clan bane is doomed, which is in no way evocative of what that actually mechanically means, even though it makes sense in the lore once again. And basically, it means they need to sleep in a different location every night. Now, I'm not talking like the other side of the room, but at least a kilometer away. Their common compulsion is to tempt fate, which really is just the classic adrenaline junkie move of doing something extremely dangerous for no other reason than it would be cool. The Ravnos Antediluvian is called Zapatasura, but he's also known as Drakian, and he very notably woke up from torpor in 1999, sending literally every single Ravnos in the entire world into a homicidal frenzy for a week. This obviously
What was that called? The Week of Nightmares?
Yeah, the Week of Nightmares.
Yeah, imagine that. Like, great granddaddy woke up, and all of a sudden everyone goes bug nuts.
Yeah, what was really weird about that is so basically an antediluvian woke up, which these are like I don't know if I described them well enough, but basically antediluvians at this level, they're such a powerful threat of a vampire that they're almost not even vampires anymore, because they're like so far beyond what normal vampires do. So it's basically almost like an eldritch horror waking up, and just its presence alone made all the members of the clan, like it probably didn't even speak to them, just it waking up, just it being around alive, and drove them all insane.
Mm-hmm. My favorite clan is probably the Zmiche, because their clan weakness is incredibly easy to game during character creation, just like the Venture clan weakness.
Yeah, it is. It is. Anyways,
I was explaining to him like now, like the Toreador clan weakness was so abused because people would never role play it. I used to call them out on it. I hated when people wouldn't role play the Toreador clan weakness.
Yeah, that's the problem with having a clan weakness that's more socially a role play focus as opposed to what's the word? I guess like mechanically focused. Hey, Opted, thanks for stopping by. Yeah, we're talking about Vampire the Masquerade clans.
Almost entirely destroyed the whole clan. The overwhelming majority of Ravnos just died during this time. And like they used incredibly powerful Eastern vampires, which are a different category of vampires called Quajin.
I love Quajin.
Which are not even probably related to the vampires.
They call them... Yeah, they call them Kindred of the East. They are not kindred.
Yeah. I'll be honest. Once Kindred of the East came out as a supplement, I said fuck K-Knights. I never want to play these pieces of trash again. From my personal perspective,
like in Bloodlines, in the Clan Quest mod, they added a whole section where you learn more about the KOE.
Oh yeah, they did that. That was pretty cool.
It's called Dance of the Thrashing Dragon. That whole story.
That's a cool story. That's also a Dharma that they have. One of these days, after we finish the Vampire Chronicle, I really want to try doing a Kindred of the East game. So not immediately after, but in the future.
I've read it here and there, and I know of them, and of course, different parts of the lore, but I've never actually played one. Because most storytellers would be like, hey, can I play one of these? They're like, no!
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, I love the Kindred of the East so much because they are diametrically just opposed to like everything that K-Knights are. And not necessarily opposed because like it's a social thing. It's just opposed where it's like, well, the only thing that makes them vampires is conceptually that they have to draw on energy from living things to sustain themselves. Aside from that, they have nothing to do with K-Knights. I wouldn't say traditional vampires, but yeah.
Right.
Anyways,
Vampire the
keep going.
Masquerade, and wizards used a bunch of orbital satellite nukes to stop this guy
Yeah, they
from
did.
the just path of destruction he was cutting through India. Now you know.
Now, I want to point out
Mhm.
that they just explained everything that they had to deal with for the Ravno antediluvian.
Yeah.
And the entire plot of Bloodlines was them trying to eat an antediluvian.
Apparently.
Like, yeah, let's wake it up. That sounds like a good idea.
Why antediluvians can be kinda spooky. Some notable Ravnos include Khalil Ravana, who is deeply addicted to the act of diablerie, Alexis Sorokin, an unparalleled master thief who is being hunted by the Camarilla, and Sinevea, a rather ancient Ravnos who prefers to spend her time mentoring younger groups of vampires and sometimes other supernatural beings, usually while pretending to not be a vampire at all. The devout and pestilential
ministry.
clan
Fuck the
ministry,
ministry.
also known as
I
the
hate the ministry so much.
Oh, yes, we should definitely cover the Caden.
Well, hold on. We should play it, though, because so that this way Dax will understand.
Well, we skipped the Hakata, didn't we?
Oh, did you guys? Okay, if you skip the Hakata, then don't worry. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to know about the ministry is there were a bunch of clans that really don't belong together that decided to go together because they're being hunted by everything else.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Come on. Fucking YouTube. Nothing works! Their AI doesn't work, their videos don't work.
The monetization doesn't work.
God damn.
Oh my god, so many people are
Phones
pissed.
oh, god damn it. Why are you messaging me?
Well, anyways, yeah, so a little bit more about the ministry. It's basically like the followers of Set decided to make, I'll say, an evil version of, like, the church. And that's the gist of it. Which
Whoa!
is kind of, like, contradictory to me because of the fact that the followers of Set had always conceptually been that. Their whole thing was tempting mortals into sin, tempting mortals into doing things they shouldn't be doing for various reasons. And they were like, well, yeah, but now we're going to give them a more like church-sounding name because followers of Set's a bit too Egyptian. And I was like, but that's what makes them cool. But anyways, yeah, it's just I just don't like what they did with 5th edition because they took a bunch of the vampire clans and they consolidated them because they're like, oh, well, these are smaller clans that no one likes. And as soon as they did that, it's kind of like, well, all of these are kind of, you know, you're cutting off like your fan base because what makes games like Vampire the Masquerade so impressive is the fact that I can literally open the book and look at a number of things and say, oh, I want to play this instead. You know, I've never played, you know, for example, how Bones was talking about the Samiti bloodline. Play one of those instead. Is this D&D? It's not D&D, Octed, but it is a game series called Vampire the Masquerade. And we'll be actually running a game of that, I think, on the 9th. Let me check my calendar.
That's what I remember.
Yeah, on the 9th. Unless that's tentative right now. Unless that changes, and in that case, we will, you know, let people know. But yeah, we'll be doing a live play of that. I've actually been running through people's like backgrounds,
this
and stories,
slowly ending global situation to learn something.
Flushed out because I like to run games, but when I like to run games, I like to run games more. I like the characters to matter. I don't like it just to be like throwaway characters. But anyways.
I got it back running.
Yay.
Snakes into vampires. And Hesha Ruhadze, a scholar of the occult so renowned that his sire actually renamed himself into Abu Ruhadze, so like the father of Ruhadze. Also, he has like a really cool monocle. And that's it.
Yeah,
That's
really
the
cool
13 clans. There is also something called caitiff, which is vampires that don't know what their clan is. They sometimes have very interesting combinations of disciplines and are not really bound to the disciplines of their clan, which is sometimes the exact reason why their sire abandoned them. While that may sound very cool, bear in mind that caitiff are the absolute lowest of the low in vampire society.
Yeah, they
No one likes them, no one wants anything to do with them. It's not really advisable to play one. So there you go. Even if before watching this you knew nothing about Vampire the Masquerade, now you have a functional, basic knowledge of what you maybe should be aware of if you're going to play the game. There is a lot of VTM lore out there, and that isn't even touching on all of the other World of Darkness properties. Even the clans I mentioned have, like, huge swathes that I couldn't even begin to get into. If you found any of them particularly interesting, I highly recommend the White Wolf Wiki for further information. Or if you prefer video learning, I can recommend the Primogens channel, who has a lot of in-depth videos on most of the clans. If you
I mean, I checked out the Primogens channel. It is in depth, but it's very boring in my opinion.
What I would suggest actually is the Gentleman's Guide to Gaming. His name's Matthew Dawkins. He's actually a friend of mine IRL. And he actually works at Onyx Path, which probably explains a lot, but that's an entirely different situation. But he has very good in-depth videos that aren't actually too long. I think the longest is like 15 minutes. So if you wanted to go through those, we could go through those as well. But I know he also covers things like Werewolf and Mage and Wraith and so forth. So yeah, there's a lot there.
I didn't watch like any of the videos on the list just because I didn't want to pre-watch.
Okay, that's cool.
But
that's
I
fair.
did watch enough to try to gauge if they were going to be at least entertaining somewhat. Because
Or not
there's
boring.
nothing worse than like listening to a long lore dump that's totally monotonous and
Yeah, there's actually a couple of YouTubers that I'm not going to name because I don't want to be a jerk, but they have really good lore, but they're like very monotonous. And that's saying a lot because I think I have a very monotonous voice myself, but I digress.
so let's see. We could do the bloodlines if you want.
I would prefer not to, only because
Right.
I'm sorry, not Dax. Ty found them by accident. He said, "Can we play these?" And I was like, "No." And the reason I said no isn't because I don't want people to play them. It's just because you guys are barely learning the game, and it's already like I'm throwing like everything in the kitchen sink on them. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the bloodlines. I think that they're cool spice if you want to learn about lore later or on your own. But I was trying to focus on stuff that you wanted for your game first. I just put it on the list.
That's cool. Opted says she wants to hear about the bloodlines. We can do the bloodlines. It's a shorter video.
Okay.
This video is sponsored by my Patreon patrons, the ranks of which you should join because it'll make you bloody cool. Get it? The joke is cool. Bloody because of blood, because this is a video about vampires and they drink blood. It's funny, isn't it? You can find all that stuff in the video description. Vampire the Masquerade by default presents you with 13 clans to play with as basic character options. These 13 clans represent 13 different types of vampire from like the various agglomerations of tropes around vampires that exist, and they give you a rough outline that you may or may not wish to follow as to what your character might be like. I made a video outlining all of those in detail, so if you have no idea what I'm talking about, you might want to go check that out.
Well,
but I assume most of you already have a decent understanding of the 13 clans, so we're going to get right into it and dig a layer deeper into what was, once upon a time, called bloodlines. I say once upon a time, I mean in V20, back when they mattered in like any way, shape, or form. As of Vampire 5th edition, they kind of don't exist anymore, but I mean also, especially in the lore, they still totally do. It's complicated.
5th edition doesn't exist in my eyes.
Right.
Never get me to play it, ever.
We'll need to first.
Well, hold on. So, okay, a little bit of a backstory, and this is kind of be like a little meta thing. So, this setting that we're playing in Paradiso is actually started as a V5 game because I was like, wow, they changed things so much. I want to give it a try before whatever. And I had one person particularly that me and Bones know who was all gung-ho to get in that game. And then when it became apparent that they changed so much that the table basically was like, nah, we're going to go back to V20, but we want to keep the setting because we like the setting. And that person got very upset and left the game because of that. He was like, no, I want to play V5 because it's the new shiny thing. I was like, but it sucks. Like, a new shiny thing can still be a piece of shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyways.
I remember when Requiem came around and I was not happy.
I like Requiem, but for different reasons, but that's an entirely different video. That's entirely different.
I didn't like the lore changes.
I loved me. I love the lore changes. This is speaking, as a storyteller. I love the lore changes to Requiem only because of the fact that it was no longer bound specifically to Cain, which means that as a storyteller, I had the freedom to say, oh, all vampires come from the moon, and yeah, in my setting, that's where they came from. And
Okay, well, technically, you could make your setting into that without.
Well, yeah, but the thing is with like with Vampire the Masquerade, so much of it is ingrained into like Cain, where if I was to say, oh no, actually Cain wasn't the progenitor, it was this other person, like 90% of the people would either storm out or table flip and be like, this isn't Vampire the Masquerade. which is kind of what we saw with Requiem, which I digress. Yeah. It's besides the point, anyways.
This edition was so horrible for D&D. I've always done homebrew or stuck with second edition. Haven't played too many other RPGs though. I used to play 2.5 D&D and then 3.0 and 3.5, and then fourth was awful. I think that was a big stumble.
Yeah, to kind of pivot a little bit just to D&D, I would say I like 5th edition, but not to run a game. I like 5th edition to teach people how to roleplay because it's stupid proof from my perspective. So if it's somebody who's never played, I will run them through like a short game session of D&D 5th edition. And I was like, if you're really like interested, then we'll do something like 3.5, which I consider like big boys D&D. Because it's very crunchy, man. I love it.
You don't know crunchy till you had to deal with Thaco.
Oh no, yeah, I remember Thaco.
All right.
Poor Dex, he doesn't understand what we're talking
about. What...
I'm sorry, Dex.
I'm just listening away.
Go ahead.
Mods for all editions for TTS, every book ever printed. Wow, damn.
The bloodline is.
Man.
Vampire clans, as unified as some of them might pretend to be, are in fact these huge, diverse, complicated endeavors full of different factions and sects and interest groups and people who just are laws unto themselves. In a more mechanical sense, the things that really define them is the in-clan disciplines that they have in common and the bane that they all have in common. Except in all the cases where they don't. The blood of Cain is mutable. Every single kindred has their own little fluctuations, their own little quirks that apply only to them or a very, very small group of people like them. No single vampire is the average vampire. And every kindred has, in theory, the ability to learn any other discipline from any other clan. It's just that the price for that is a little steeper. It's like how we have the code to create tentacles in our DNA, even though we don't have tentacles anywhere. That's kind of how the magic of Cain's gift works. It's passed through the generations. Maybe one day we will have tentacles. I mean, I also do sci-fi content. A bloodline is generally an offshoot of a main clan that either has a different loadout of inherent discipline.
I mean, we do have a Zamishe, so we could have tentacles.
Possibly.
Fuck yeah.
Possibly.
So as long as I'm the one doing the tentacling.
Hold on, let me pause real quick and comment on that. Hey, thanks for calling. Okay, so there's an old, I'll say urban legend around like Vampire the Masquerade, but specifically in regards to Mage the Ascension. I'm pretty sure Bones knows it, which is that a mage has the abilities to turn a vampire into a lawn chair. Yeah. I think everyone's heard that. Well, I have gotten confirmation from Phil Bricado, who ironically is I'll say a good friend of mine. I've had some pretty good conversations with him over like Facebook and stuff. Well, it was brought up that because, once again, of people that I was mutually friends with at the time being like, no, because mages can do this and ha 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 ha, vampires are useless because of blah. And Phil Bricado flat out said no. Because the blood of Cain is something that does not conform to reality. That's why it's a curse. It's a greater curse. And he was like, so you might be physically able to turn a vampire into a lawn chair with matter. He was like, but guess what? It is a lawn chair that's now animated by the blood of Cain. So, you know, that kind of like little, you know, smirk, kind of like he type of thing just it doesn't work. It doesn't work.
It'd be an interesting horror movie.
It would, yeah.
The lawn chair.
It'd be such a meta one, but yeah, it would. Anyways, okay, let's keep going.
Philosophical difference with the main clan, or a fundamentally different way of using
Mimics
those core
vampires.
disciplines, which
Yeah,
usually is represented
Actually,
by
you know
a
what?
different
Hold on, pause it again.
philosophical outlook on.
That'd be a great fucking idea to make a fucking bloodline of mimics that are actually like, you know, a group of mages turned vampires like into things to basically, you know, mess with them and they turn into mimics.
There you go.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
actually
whole
that's a
plot
cool
right there.
idea. Yeah, that's a cool idea. Okay, sorry, keep going.
And they're used as like guard dogs, so like we're breaking into the mage's place.
I mean, they did it with gargoyles.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I
So
can
why
see
not?
it. It could be a bloodline of gargoyles, which is a bloodline of a bloodline.
There we go. Random
Anyways.
furniture.
All
the
right.
world. Some of them even have a different clan bane. However, these things are not true about all bloodlines. Something I love about World of Darkness, and Vampire the Masquerade in particular, is that it's full of contradictions, differences of opinion, and little idiosyncrasies that make no sense. In universe, there's a lot of disagreement on
I'm sorry, I was gonna keep it to myself, but I couldn't. Now that now that you mentioned that, all I can think of that's what Beauty and the Beast was. Everyone in the castle was turned into.
Sorry, based on your out-of-date lawn chair comedy. No, that's awesome. That's perfect. I can't believe I've never thought of that. If I'm being completely honest, I can't believe I haven't thought of that before.
what actually constitutes a bloodline. The word bloodline is like the words fish or vegetable. It has no inherent scientific meaning, but when I say it, you kind of have a general idea of what I'm talking about, and it's probably going to be pretty accurate. But when it comes to the finer details, there's going to be a lot of disagreement. For instance, a lot of kindred will agree that the anti-tribu of a given clan are a bloodline of that clan. An errant bloodline, to be specific. Anti-tribu are kindred that have split off and gone the opposite way from the main political sectarian usually position of their main clan, like for instance when someone from a Camarilla clan is in the Sabbat or vice versa. A Toreador that is in the Sabbat instead of the Camarilla is a Toreador anti-tribu. But there's disagreements on who even is really the anti-tribu in some clans.
Oh,
Leadership
God, I fucking
and
hate
a
that
significant number of Clan La Sombra recently joined the Camarilla. So does that mean that the majority of the La Sombra who is still with the Sabbat are now La Sombra anti-tribu, or are now the leadership, the anti-tribu that joined the Camarilla? Because for centuries, Camarilla La Sombra were La Sombra anti-tribu. What about the Gangrel? They left the Camarilla, but they didn't join the Sabbat. They're just more gangrels, independent, disorganized, not centralized. Can you even claim that there is such a thing as a gangrel anti-tribu? Is that really a concept that you can justify? Or do you say because they're mainly aligned with the Anarch movement now in like a informal type way that both the gangrel in the Sabbat and the gangrel in the Camarilla are anti-tribu? The answer to all of these questions is going to highly depend on whom you ask, and because these things, especially in universe, are completely just social constructs, there's no objectively correct answer. Now you could look at the rule books and see which of the clans is defined as anti-tribu, although even there, it's not always so very clear, but I feel like that would be cheating. To make matters worse, there are anti-tribal groups who are defined by having different disciplines from the main clan, while most anti-tribals don't. So if you use the disciplines have to be different for the measuring stick as to what constitutes a bloodline, some anti-tribal are bloodlines and others are not. And now additionally, not only do bloodlines often have different loadouts of disciplines, many of them even have
yeah, I mean, well, you've got Bruja and True Bruja and Bruja anti-tribute.
Yeah, so like, unless they get a different discipline or a different power, I don't consider them a true bloodline. Like, they're only being a bloodline basically in political disagreement.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, like Gangrel, I know you talked about Gangrel. Like, there's the country Gangrel, which are the traditional one that everyone plays, and then the city Gangrel. And the only thing that's different is city Gangrel don't have animalism, they have celerity instead, which I think is actually a better trade, but, you know.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Yeah, so the anti-tribute like argument is always like, whatever. they're not mine. That's what I would probably answer. Also, just to let everybody know, anti-tribute just means anti-tribe. Basically, you're going against your primary tribe of vampire. That's what anti-tribute means. Just a little bit of context.
Unique disciplines that only they have access to, that are sort of their defining characteristic. And this is where we get to the point where Vampire 5 just sort of went, nah, to the disciplines of these bloodlines, and thus the thing that mechanically gives them a lot of identity. Like, those disciplines make up a huge chunk of what that bloodline is about. And the problem is, Vampire 5 has yeeted these kinds of identity-giving disciplines even from mainline clans. You know how with the Ministry they went,
Serpentis es now protean batsnake.
I mean, they got rid of vicissitude, for fuck's sake. They didn't need to do that. That wasn't a necessary thing that needed to happen. They're all in the... You can just look at the old editions and take the words and put them into the new ones. You own the copyright to this. I mean, they still exist. Vicissitude is still a thing, but now it's like a power shoehorned into a combination of other disciplines.
Yeah, they made it like a combo,
basically
which is
reducing this... And I cannot stress this enough, identity-giving signature power to a footnote. In practical terms, though, you can basically play as a bloodline vampire with a little bit of GM fiat, a little bit of home brewing in V5, just like you can essentially bring back the old disciplines. Not too complicatedly. I mean, straight up, it is just in the text of the old... you can go to the wiki. It's on a wiki. I don't understand why they did this. And hey, if you are some sort of heretic that deserves to be burned at the stake, you can definitely also emulate those bloodlines abilities by like making one of the combination signature amalgam powers. That's some you really want to do. If that's a line you want to cross, a moral event horizon that you want to get yourself right past. Just, you know, go to confession about it, maybe. Anyway, there's really no limit to the amount of bloodlines that exist. I mean, there is in the sense that exists only a limited amount of bloodlines, but they're not capped at 13 the way clans are, and not all of them have been described yet, so there's a lot of room for interpretation. And I will be telling you about some of the coolest among them now. Just quick side note, I'm not going to be talking about the Libon in this video, because they're kinda not really a bloodline, and that's going to be a video all on its own. Just the whole political ecosystem of Africa, where you have Nosferatu kings and sneaky Toreador. It is incredible. I mean, that's completely fascinating. It's too big for this one. Clan Markavian already has a bit of a reputation to deal with when it comes to being crazy, which is entirely true and makes them dangerous not even by virtue of them being crazy, but by virtue of them being fucking vampires. There's a huge societal bias because, of course, those individuals stand out more, and so your availability heuristic is gonna go, oh, they make up a larger percentage of this group of people than they actually do. with the mentally ill for them being like dangerous people. And they do, at least when they're having an episode, tend to be rather unpredictable, but that's not really an accurate representation of reality. It actually makes you a lot more likely to become the victim of violent crime than it does make you more prone to violent crime. I say this because with the Ananke, that is very specifically not what we are talking about. This is a bloodline of killers. Of the most gruesome variety they are. They were, in the olden days, originally a sort of priestly caste to help the main body of the clan seek meaning between the folds of the symbology of reality. To achieve this, they practiced haruspexy, which is the ritual slaughter and evisceration of animals in order to find hidden omens and obscure truths.
Lovely.
Haruspexy, not a Vampire the Masquerade term, by the way. It's a real historical phenomenon that really, if you want to be strict about it, clearly is about like reading the divination patterns in eviscerated animals, but these days it's also used to mean like tea leaf reading or like handline reading, anything where you have a certain pattern and you interpret information from that. But to
see that cow's guts? That means you're going to get money.
Basically.
Or dysentery. I can't tell.
It's hard to tell.
Goddamn cat.
Don't you guys love having cats? That's why I don't have
She
cats.
gets jealous of me on the computer, so she tries to get between me and the computer.
Well, you know, pussies like boners, so.
Exactly.
To be historically accurate, it's only specifically entrails. As probably most of you have already surmised, the Ananke don't do haruspexy with dead animals,
that's a good way of looking at
people. Except usually the people are alive at the beginning of the haruspexy process and sort of stop doing that. They're serial killers, much more so than kindred usually are, and they are also often embraced from the ranks of serial killers. And it's not just the regular type of serial killer, it's the kind of serial killer that does these artistic displays with their victims that only they really understand. The Ananke have a slightly different discipline spread than the rest of their clan, with Auspex being the ability to have like heightened, sharpened senses, but in this case specifically, probably more an ability to perceive the supernatural patterns in the haruspexy that they do. Dementation, which is the ability to instill madness, although now in 5th edition it is obviously dominate. And the thing where they differ is they have presence, which is supernatural charisma, instead of obfuscate. They also have a variant of the clan bane where their derangement specifically pertains to having to sort of take trophies from all of their kills and then sit on them in ritual meditation to contemplate the secrets of the universe that are behind this severed hand. Their origin is shrouded in mystery, though many think that the founder of this bloodline is the Yonku, which is one of the scariest motherfuckers in the whole of vampire lore, and most people outside of Clan Malkavian do not think that it exists. It essentially has the ability to sort of teleport through the Malkavian madness network and invade the dreams of Malkavians, like some Freddy Krueger type shit, except when you wake up, it's still there in the real world now. The Yonku is never seen, at least not by anyone that is still unalive in any meaningful way, but it is detected by the holes it rips into the fabric of the Madness Network. When you become Malkavian, without needing to be told about the Yonku, you are automatically instilled with an instinctive fear of it. So whenever another Malkavian suddenly disappears and it was the Yonku, a screech of horror that is like half desperation, half warning goes through the network, and Malkavians everywhere go into hiding. It's kind of like how when an orca kills a great white shark and all the great white sharks in the area.
So I just wanted to say that conceptually, not necessarily that that's bad, but that's why a lot of storytellers generally don't allow bloodlines, is because if somebody was to randomly play something from that bloodline, I would have to suddenly work that bullshit into my game if I didn't even have planned to use the Malkavian Madness Network at all. But now, since it's important, it's kind of like crucial to that bloodline. I have to work it in. Otherwise, it's like, well, what makes you different than just a Malkavian?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, so that's why.
Not
Mhm.
all bloodlines are like
Yeah, not all the bloodlines, but generally that's why it's like you have to. It's like I told you guys initially when you're making characters, like if you want to play something that's not on the table, you have to give me a really good reason why, and not because I'm trying to like railroad or anything. It's just like I don't want to overload anybody.
I mean, I'm personally very fond of the Zemiche Brodovich bloodline.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That Dax is a revenant family, like the Zemiche specifically raised humans to embrace. So they raised them a certain way. It's a bloodline like of a family that they raised specifically. So when it's ready, the time to embrace and to become Zemiche, they become that, but they have a slightly different discipline because they were raised to be like the Brodovich specifically were made to be like the kennel keepers of like the hellhounds and stuff like that.
So yeah, there's a lot of crazy lore in there.
Did we lose Dax?
No, I'm still here. I'm listening.
He's absorbing. It's probably a lot for him.
Yeah, I am mostly in the receptive state.
Okay.
All good.
I just wasn't sure. I can't tell if you're like listening or disconnected. I've had that happen where I'll talk, and then I get my phone rings. I'm like, when the fuck did it disconnect?
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah, just fuck off. This really explains why the Ananke are feared and respected by the elders of the clan, as they are one of its most ancient manifestations. One of the most fucked up bloodlines in terms of the sheer inhumanity of them are the Blood Brothers, who were created as a sort of
I was never allowed to play a Blood Brother.
Well,
I asked so many times.
The problem with the Blood Brothers is you have to have other people that are actively playing them, because if you aren't, then you're at a major disadvantage. You kind of don't make any sense.
Well, yeah, we
Hey,
had
Soul
worked
Six,
it out.
how's it
At
going?
one point, they were going to let me and one other person play, just have a pair, but then they changed their mind at the last minute because they realized how broken it would be. It really can get broken, some of the shit that they can do, at least in the LARP. I haven't read the tabletop versions.
Yeah, so basically, to kind of give Dax a little rundown on Blood Brothers so he knows what he's getting into. They're basically a type of vampire that essentially, you remember like from X-Men, there's a character called Multiple Man that has just like multiple copies of himself.
Oh yeah, I know him. Yep.
Okay, well, the Blood Brothers are basically like vampire equivalents of that. Like they don't duplicate like Multiple Man does, but you run to a room and there's like 30 vampires and they all look the same. Those are Blood Brothers because they're made basically by the Tzimisce to be the same, usually for a specific purpose. But they have certain abilities like if they shoot off the limb, like let's say the arm of one, they can grab the arm from another one and stick it on and be like, hey, I'm good to go. And that's
They
like
could
that's on
share
the lower
between each
end of
other.
that's on the lower end of things they could do. Hey Steve, how's it going?
I know at one point they could share their generation, like lend generation, their generation to another Blood Brother. Disciplines, it's crazy. It can get excessive if you have too many.
Yeah, because it's like normal vampire powers, for example, scale like 1 to 5. But if there's enough of them, they can suddenly get like a potence of like 30.
Yeah, it can get out of hand.
Yeah.
That's
Anyways,
why I said 2, just 2, and they were like, no.
Collaboration between Tremere and Tzimisce spellcasters in the Sabbat, and as such, they don't really have a parent clan. Basically what'll happen is these Sabbat sorcerers will sort of get together, usually a group of people that is already somehow bonded and or used to violence. Like for instance, perfect candidates, a squad that was in war together, or a gang, or a family. They need to have some sort of basis to make the process easier. And then, during the process of turning them into kindred, they transform them into a single mind. Through this process, all members of that group of Blood Brothers...
Okay, give me a moment. I have to do the moan. There you go. Okay, you got the moan.
Lose their entire sense of
Oh, you get-
individuality, like completely. And though this isn't a natural part of the transformation process, it is standard practice to use vicissitude to like shape all of them to look the same. Blood brothers need to be with each other at all times, and they become extremely irritated at the very idea that there might be some sort of difference between them in any way, shape, or form. They are utterly loyal to each other, they care only about each other, which of course in terms of their personal experience means themselves. And though the Sabbat has instilled them with unquestioning fanatical devotion to their creators, they've also been sure enough to like prevent them from being able to sire any childer of their own. Their discipline spread is fortitude, which is supernatural toughness, potence, which is supernatural strength, the combination of which already makes them into incredibly powerful fighters that few clans can match by default, and sanguinus, which is their signature discipline. And let's fucking talk about Sanguinus here for a moment, because it is fucked up. Basically, Sanguinus is a derivative of the flesh crafting discipline of vicissitude, and it allows the Blood Brothers to perceive the world as one, to have a shared mind. They
hive
literally
mind, if you
fight
will.
as one. You know, like Sensei, but they're like actually all the same person. And I hear you asking, oh, being mentally linked up, that sounds more like a Malkavian thing than a vicissitude thing. What is so vicissitude about this discipline? Well, I am horrified that you ask, because basically what Sanguinus allows the Blood Brothers to do is instantly send each other body parts of themselves and like access to bodily functions that they have. This means that in a mentally linked combat scenario, when one of the Blood Brothers happens to currently be in the back line and another Blood Brother who is at the front happens to be in need of an extra pair of arms, the Blood Brother in the backline will retract his arms and they will emerge from the body of the other Blood Brother. And they can do this with base attributes. 4 of them become like mega scrawny, and one of them becomes like this huge hulking motherfucker with the strength and muscle mass of 5 skinheads. Experienced Blood Brother groups can like meld into a singular flesh
Predator, how's it going?
entity. Even powerful
We're just
elder
watching lore videos
vampires
today
are going to take
for the
the
game
L
in
and fuck
preparation.
off when they see that coming. See, this is why it's good that the Tremere and the Tzimitzi are mortal enemies, because when they put their differences aside for their shared interests, shit like this happens. The Daughters of Cacophony, or the Sons of Discord for the few male ones who I assume just sort of hang out on the internet all day, is yet another bloodline without a clear singular clan ancestor, though people are pretty
Daughters
sure
of
that they're like a
Cacophony are like the
collaboration between
ethos.
Toreador and Malkavian.
Yes.
They're relatively recent, only emerging in like the Victorian era, though their own creation myth points to a Toreador elder being instructed in the art of singing by a powerful fey creature. Association with them, especially by having one of them in your service, is especially among Toreador a mark of great prestige, because they are the most powerful singers. They have access to the in-clan disciplines Fortitude, which is supernatural toughness, Melpomene, which as you might have surmised is supernatural magical singing, and Presence, which is the supernatural charisma of vampires. Their signature power is, of course, Melpomene, which allows them to tap into their constant inner music, also known as the fugue, and instill all manner of powerful emotions, visions, and delusions in the people who are listening. It's an incredibly useful tool of manipulation, especially if you want to get around to manipulating Elder Toreador, because they still want to like feel emotions, and this kind of thing is the only way they can still do that.
Yeah, he has some good
Living
Warhammer stuff
doesn't
too.
do it
Credits.
for them anymore. So many of the Daughters of Cacophony become secret power brokers among the Toreador ranks. It can also be used for stuff like discreetly sending messages to people, like the sending spell in D&D. Daughters of Cacophony make music of all styles you can conceive of, and it is not explicitly written down, but heavily implied that they can use the effects of Melpomene not just by singing, but also by playing instruments. Among the Daughters of Cacophony, there are those who completely succumb to their inner song, their fugue, and those the sirens call banshees. They're a special type of white that, instead of having lost its sense of humanity, has lost its sense of reality and thus becomes extremely dangerous and unpredictable, which is where the Malkavian element of the whole thing comes in. If you know anything about Clan Tremere, it's that they have a lot of enemies and nobody really likes them. But also that of all the clans that don't like them very much, the Tzimisce have a special hatred of them. And the reason for this is the gargoyles. Basically, what happened is that around the 12th century or so, the Tremere decided that they needed more obedient slaves, but they couldn't beat Tremere because, let's be honest here for a second, not even the Tremere like Tremere all that much. So Verstania, a sorceress who had always had a penchant for sort of making her own companions, developed a technique of taking apart two kindred and recombining them into one that would expand the Tremere toolbox. To this end, Nosferatu, Gangrel, and Tzimisce kindred were captured, destroyed, and put back together. And all of them were chosen because they had a certain, mutability and ability to change, but the former two were chosen also because they're like lesser clans. The Tremere consider them just basically animals. But the Tzimisce were also chosen because it was convenient. The Tremere headquarters was at the time located in Transylvania. This is how the first gargoyles were created, and a lot of kindred died in this process. And while the Nosferatu are too pragmatic to hold grudges, and the Gangrel don't really care all that much that the weakest among their ranks were called, the Tzimisce hate the Tremere for this to this day. The first gargoyles came in three variants, that being Scout, Sentinel, and Warrior. Scouts were amalgams of Gangrel and Nosferatu, and they had access to the disciplines Allspex, so they could see good, Flight, which is sort of self-explanatory, and Protean, so they could change their shape as needed. Sentinels were amalgams of Nosferatu and Tzimisce, and they had access to the disciplines Flight, Fortitude, so they could take a hit defending their master's holdings, and Potence, so they could give a hit defending their master's holdings. And finally, the Warriors were amalgams of Gangrel and Tzimisce, and they had the disciplines Flight, Fortitude, so they could get the shit beaten out of them, and Protean, so they would have the ability to adapt to various different combat situations. These original gargoyles were not able to embrace and have childer of their own, though through reasons that are not entirely clear, this changed over time, and by the time of the Anarch Revolt in the 15th century, they could do that, and they did do that. And tired of centuries of demeaning servitude, they, led actually by their original creator Verstania, rebelled against the Tremere, and many of them escaped. This actually forced the Tremere to move their head chantry to Vienna, and it also made them implement a special program where they now ruthlessly hunt down every single gargoyle not controlled by a Tremere and just destroy them. They do not get a second chance. This is actually why the UK, and London specifically, has for a while been a safe haven for gargoyles, because Mithras, the Ventru king of Albion, woke up from torpor one day, found out that there was such a thing as the Tremere now, and went, "They diablo-rized who? Saulat? Oh, shucks, I really like that guy. That's really not a cool cat thing to do. Well, I guess all of you Tremere fellas are now banned from my domain. I don't want to see none of you being around here." Now that Mithras is probably dead, which, you never know with these Methuselah whether or not that is really the case, the Tremere are once again openly operating in London, and it's becoming kind of a problem for those gargoyles that did survive the purge of the Second Inquisition that also happened there. Luckily, the gargoyles of the modern knights have access to a different spread of disciplines, namely Fortitude, supernatural toughness, Potence, supernatural strength, and Visceratica, which I will get to in a minute. But crucially, they still have access to the Flight discipline. It's just not it's mechanically a discipline, but it's not like a discipline, making them sort of the only vampires capable of flight in their natural form. Visceratica allows gargoyles access to the powers of stone and also buildings and architecture. This can materialize in simple things like they can harden their skin even more than it already is through their fortitude rating, but also they can like sense everyone in the building and where exactly they are. They can meld into the walls and into rock, and at high levels, if they are entirely motionless, they can just be outside the whole day in the sunlight. This also all really helps with like not breaching the Masquerade all that much, because they are very clearly not human. Earlier we talked about a bloodline that was of the opinion that it came to be through fairy interference, and while that may sound like mumbo jumbo to some, that is exactly how the Chiasid bloodline of the La Sombra became the giant reclusive scholars of the occult that they are today. Historically, Chiasid referred to any kind of vampire that was somehow touched by fairy blood, which were generally, as a rule of thumb, hunted by other vampires because fairy interference can do all kinds of weird shit. Yes. However, in the 4th century, the mage turned La Sombra scholar Marconius, after a particularly deep and eventful delve through the veil with the powers of obtenebration, came back changed. He was now suddenly over 2 meters tall, with pale skin that glowed ever so faintly, and black eyes with neither irises nor pupils. His existence was considered a threat at the time by La Sombra leadership, and only the interference of a powerful Methuselah ensured that he was, instead of just being destroyed, imprisoned in the dungeon of the castle that was the La Sombra headquarters near Syracuse. Syracuse in Sicily, by the way, not Syracuse in New York. It's a different, much older place. He was freed during the Anarch Revolt, meaning that he was imprisoned for like 1,000 years. But he bounced back, you know, not without severe scars. He did bounce back, became the Prince of Strasbourg even. He officially founded the Chiasid bloodline and then went on to exterminate all of the kindred that were Chiasids, but not of his own brood, which led to those that survived that very sudden, very strong onslaught renaming themselves into the Magar. Chiasids have access to the disciplines Dominate, which is mind control, though some of them have Necromancy instead, Mytherkeria, which is their signature discipline, and Obtenebration, which is the La Sombra signature discipline of having power over shadows. Mytherkeria is a very subtle power that has changed a lot over the editions, but fundamentally it allows the Chiasids to have an intuitive understanding of magic and fairy glamours, and is a bit of a toolbox to, through powers of trickery, fuck with people's perception of the world, but in a more actual and real way than chemistry. This is of course the perfect power for these very reclusive kindred who like to spend most of their time in havens that are basically just gigantic libraries, disconnected from the rest of the world and even their own kind. A lot of the time you're going to be lucky if even the prince knows that there is a Chiasid anywhere in their domain, and usually it's going to be only one. Not all bloodline have their own individual disciplines. Some of them don't even have any kind of blood relation to each other at all, but spring from philosophical differences. Like, for instance, the Mariner bloodline of Clan Gangrel. Just because your sire was of the Mariner bloodline doesn't mean you have to be. And just because your sire was not of the Mariner bloodline doesn't mean you can't become a Mariner. It's a lifestyle choice. As very much creatures of the city. It's their natural habitat. It's where the prey lives. Not to mention there's like werewolves and all other kind of crazy shit out in the country. But then there has always been the Gangrel, who much prefer being kindred out in the wilderness. They don't really fear all the terrible things that dwell there. Of course, there's still a lot of Gangrel living in the cities, but even they tend to stick to the wilder parts of town. But for all those who live outside of the walls of urbanism, there's actually a lot of options in the natural world as to how and where you'd like to live. It doesn't need to be the forest or the mountains. It could also be underwater. Vampires don't need to breathe. The main limiting
It's true,
factor
they
is
don't.
really that there's not that many humans
I've used that to my
underwater.
advantage
But nonetheless,
many
this is where Mariner Gangrel make their home. You can find them anywhere from coral reef to flooded caves to even the open ocean. Gangrel are much better at gaining sustenance from wild animals than most of the other clans in the first place, and water is actually very effective at blocking out sunlight. Not to mention, if you catch on fire, you are already underwater. Just like regular Gangrel, Mariner Gangrel have access
Valid.
to disciplines animalism, which is controlled over animals, Fortitude, which allows them to survive in the high-pressure environments of the ocean, and Protean, which is shape-shifting. And that really is where the main difference lies between the two variants of the clan. Where the regular Gangrel use Protean to get like night vision eyes and transform into owls and wolves, Mariner Gangrel prefer to get like sonar and transform into orcas and sharks. Because of their inherent disconnection with humanity, many of them actually turn into whites rather quickly, though they're not really identified as such because they're like some sea monster that
Yeah,
is
they're
somewhere
really
in
weird.
some like fucking deep lake. And even the ones who aren't whites specifically will behave that way a lot of the time. A lot of the scary shit underwater is misidentified Mariner Gangrel. The Tremere are not the only mages to eventually become vampires.
played one of those ones
The
too, it's
Nagaraja
fun.
also count
Nagaraja?
among this number, though the path
Yes.
they took was different. And in my original clans video, I actually suggested that the Nagaraja somehow had Cappadocius as their antediluvian, which is not true. During the entire process of sort of writing that video, recording it, editing it, it never occurred to me that it could possibly be interpreted that way. But it kinda is the only reasonable interpretation of what I said. Like, you can't see that and not think that what I said is that the Nagaraja are childer of Cappadocius, which it just isn't the case. The first Nagaraja were created as warriors by a group of mages from northern India when they entered a pact with a mummy, which do exist in World of Darkness, and they are extremely rare and very, very powerful. Basically, the pact was that they would help the mummy protect the lost city of Enoch, which is where the Cain originally lived and the antediluvians all come from, and which was at the time located in the Shadowlands, which is sort of like the upside down of the World of Darkness universe. And in exchange for their help, the mummy would give them a spell that would make them immortal. And you know how when sometimes you're in a conversation with very smart people, but you don't want to seem stupid, and they're like talking to you about something, and you do your best to bullshit, to like pretend that you
that
know
all
what
the
they're
time.
talking about.
That's what happens when I talk
That's
to Lord
kind of what
Intellectual.
these mages did with the spell that was given to them for immortality. They did gain immortality and became immensely powerful. They formed an organization called the Tal Me Ra, which is a very influential in the vampire world to this day. But they really had to kind of figure it out on their own with the spell that they didn't quite get the hang of as like a guideline. The purpose of the Tal Me Ra, by the way, is to watch over and sort of listen to the 4 crypts that are buried deep underneath the first city in the Shadowlands, which, like, straight up no one knows what is in those crypts, or if even there's like 4 beings in those crypts. There's a lot of theories around what might be in them, because clearly power radiates from them and they sap energy from mages and kindred and whatever the fuck alike, but no one actually knows what is in there. But they soon found out that it was actually a lot of work protecting Enoch from like incursions and whatever
There's
the
a lot
fuck
of
other
work.
stuff. Like, for instance, the followers of Set, and that was why the mummy wanted their help in the first place. And so, in order to cope with fighting against the Setites, they took some volunteers among their ranks and infused this magic spell that they had with Setite vampire blood to turn them into kindred. This way, the first Nagaraja happened, and they could enter kindred society and strengthen the Tal Me Ra, which at this point is comprised not of mages, but mostly of vampires. And the result of all this was a unique type of vampire that, instead of just drinking blood, had to consume the flesh of its victims. They have access to the disciplines Auspex, which is heightened senses, Dominate, which is mind control, and Nihilistics, also known as the Vitreous Path of Necromancy, which is a specific version of the necromancy discipline that focuses on various kinds of interactions with the Vale and the Shadowlands. When some of the surviving Nagaraja joined Clan Hekata fairly recently, this in Vampire 5, I mean, was changed into Oblivion, which I guess is kind of like mostly what the power of Oblivion is about, at least, I guess. And they can, you know, also get Dominate as a discipline instead of Fortitude as a Hekata clan. Oh, and the reason I say surviving Nagaraja is because a lot of them were destroyed because there was like a magic hurricane in the Shadowlands in 1999 and it sort of destroyed Enoch. And what really kind of pisses me off about all this is that by joining the Hekata, they lost their inherent clan bane of like having serrated teeth and having to consume their victims whole. Which, yes, I will grant you any day of the week that is an extremely big bane. It makes them very powerless. They have no access to, like, obfuscate type powers. Even smiling at another person is immediately a masquerade breach. And it's a lot more work to sort of completely eat a person instead of just taking some blood from them. And you always kill your victim in the process of doing that, so they can't, like, subtly cleave some blood off their relatives like many vampires can do. But it's so cool and interesting.
Yes.
It is so cool. Even in the World of Darkness universe, a lot of people think that vampires are sort of repelled by the sight of the cross, which couldn't be further from the truth. A lot of vampires are actually devout Christians, and the Archangel Michael was actually a Toreador Methuselah who created his own bloodline. He isn't the actual Archangel Michael, according to some versions and interpretations of the lore. He just thinks he is, but according to others,
that's how
he
things
is
usually
the
are with
guy.
these games.
It's complicated. So you know how the Toreador are obsessed with art and beauty? The Nephilim are this, like, times a million. Michael was one of the architects of the Dream, a sort of vampire utopia where kindred could live in harmony with each other and rule over the kind while in dedication and supplication to the great divine. The Dream existed for 1,000 years in the city of Constantinople, but eventually fell apart when two of its leaders, including Michael, met the final death. And especially among older vampires, the fall of Constantinople is still a bit of a hot button issue. What remains is the Nephilim Basilica, a cult that worships the blood of Michael across various different clans and sects, actually. They live strict, dedicated lives of art and also debauchery because they're fucking Toreador. And they're waiting for...
No, I haven't said anything yet. I wouldn't think so.
Or is it Bones?
What? What'd I do?
Is Bones' volume? I might have you low on my end because the last time we collabed.
Oh.
No. Oh yeah, I have it down a little bit. Let me bump you up to like right there. That looks good. Okay. Hey, go for it.
We good?
Yeah, I think we're good.
Or the return of someone with Michael's blood, or perhaps even the return of the Archangel himself. They have accessed the disciplines Auspex, which is supernatural senses, Chemistry, which is illusion magic, and actually the signature discipline of Clan Ravnos, and Presence, which is supernatural charisma. However, it's not that simple because the Nephilim are not quite like other bloodlines. So the founder of the cult and the founder of the bloodline was a Toreador, and most of the leadership of that cult is still Toreador. However, people from any clan, even mortals to a certain extent, can join the cult, and they do benefit from access to the vitae of Michael. Like, it fundamentally changes them as vampires. Most notably, this is like an angelic beautification type process, where you get like very symmetrical, hard-lined angelic features in this like marbly skin. The very way you carry yourself becomes divine. You cease to be undead and start...
I'm like that all the time. I'm amazing.
Kind of, and I hate to say this, like vampires in Twilight. Except, of course, they don't have access to celerity, so they don't have super speed, which the Toreador usually do. They don't have access to potence. which none of the Toreador do, or Fortitude, so it's also they're not supernaturally tough, and also they don't really sparkle, but kind of like the vampires in Twilight. This is even true for the Nosferatu, who can also join the cult and can also benefit from the Vitae of Michael. Although, because of just how disgusting they already are, they can never attain beauty. The most the ones that were mutated the least and are the most human passing among the Nosferatu can end up looking pretty human through this Vitae. But, of course, and this is very important,
You look like you've been in a car
drinking the
accident.
Vitae of a vampire blood binds you to them. So you get blood bound to the leadership and the direct descendants of Michael. Speaking of the Nosferatu, if the Yonku that I mentioned
actually do
earlier
like the
wasn't
Nictuku.
enough of a horror story for you, let me introduce
The Nictuku!
Nictuku. Very classic example of why a bloodline is kind of really in the eye of the beholder, because the Nictuku are arguably closer to the Nosferatu antediluvian than the rest of the clan. They are
Yeah, I can
also
agree with
the
that.
real reason why the Nosferatu hide underground. So in my original clans video, I already alluded to the fact that Absimiliad, the Nosferatu antediluvian,
Was a dick.
absolutely despises all his spawn and seeks to exterminate them. And all of the modern Nosferatu, which comprise the majority of the Nosferatu, descend from his rogue child, Baba Yaga. Those of his childhood that remained loyal, aka the ones that were still bloodbound to Absimiliad, comprise a small but extremely dangerous bloodline of apex predators that is so unnourished by human blood that they need to hunt
Mistakes were made.
vampires. They are
Yeah.
almost the
Mistakes were
opposite
made to
of regular
credits.
Nosferatu in that they will never sleep underground. They will not do it. And they will tend to make their havens on the outskirts of civilization, where they build like little cults of ghouls and devotees around themselves. The clan Bane also works differently for them in that they are, instead of being hideous, imbued with a sort of otherworldly beauty. And the focus here really is on the word otherworldly. They like have this pale white skin and these elongated features and the strange facial muscles and stuff. They look like aliens, basically. They just don't look immediately hideous, is what I mean. Part of this probably has to do with the fact that they exclusively embrace incredibly beautiful youths. And over time, actually,
Hey,
this
Rhino, we're
otherworldly beauty
watching
wears
some
off,
lore for
and they look
Vampire the
more and more
Masquerade.
like regular Nosferatu.
We have
There
a
is
tabletop
theory
game of it coming
that
up,
they can't, if they don't embrace someone
think on the
who's like
9th, if
very
everything
young
goes
and
well.
very, very beautiful, they just come out as a regular Nosferatu. And those of those who manage to flee and not get immediately destroyed by their master sometimes reintegrate into Nosferatu society, which is why some Nosferatu, like, phenotypes have features that are ascribed to certain particular individual Nictuku. So there's a bit of a cross-pollination across the bloodlines. However,
If
as a
you will.
plus for the Nictuku, the uglier they become over time, the stronger they also become. Like, that's a directly inverse causal relationship. They have access to the disciplines Auspex, which is supernatural senses, Celerity, which is super speed, and Potence, which is super strength. So, very different loadout from the regular
very different
Nosferatu that
loadout.
makes them extremely dangerous. Crucially, they all tend to be of rather low generation and also have access to
It's for
other
educations.
disciplines because they are notorious diabolarists. They don't really care about the masquerade or all the politics of vampire society. They just want to kill Nosferatu.
Yeah, fuck your couch!
There's also a lot of other vampires around.
It's
and
true, though.
sometimes you're hungry, and there's really not that much of a point to leaving the last swig in the juice box. Another great example of a bloodline that likes to see itself
Last
as
swig in the juice
actual real
box.
clan is the old Clan Samitsi, which, given that the moniker of the regular Clan Samitsi is already the old clan, you can imagine how ancient these people are. Like, very few of them are younger than 500, and most are way older. They call themselves the Draculesti, and this really is because they are the epitome of like the Dracula living in a castle type vampire. But the main difference between them is they didn't adopt the, in their opinion, tainted discipline of vicissitude when they moved over to the Sabbat. Or rather, the younger generation of Clan Tzimisce moved to the Sabbat. They didn't. Like, they were the people that
they didn't do that.
rebelled
They didn't believe in
against
that,
by
in
those
that
younger
trash.
Tzimisce. And instead of having
Fuck your
vicissitude, they are masters of Koldunic sorcery, which gives them access to control
given that
over
advice
various
before.
spirits of the land. They are more sedentary even than regular Tzimisce, but they write home field advantage in all caps, because they know immediately when you have stepped onto their domain, they can make the earth bind you, set you on fire, and then write a lightning to your position to watch you burn. It should be noted that there are Tzimisce in like the younger clan that also are experts at Koldunic sorcery. It's just that none of them are really masters of it. Nevertheless, the old clan Tzimisce's discipline spread is animalism, which is control over animals, Auspex, which is supernatural senses, and dominate, which is mind control. Koldunic sorcery is maybe technically a discipline, but it is always purchased at out-of-discipline cost prices, which is a good thing because it is very, very powerful. This makes it different from, say, Tremere or Banu Hakim blood magic. Most of the
it makes Tremere magic look like
a political apparatus called the Oradea League, which is sort of like a Dracula EU. But the reason that it's them specifically, like most of them at this point, is that during the Anarch Revolt and the Sabbat rebellion against them, those were the ones that were able to defend themselves best because they had these alliances to fall back on. Also, they're like completely localized to Transylvania. You will not find old Clan Tzimisce outside of Transylvania. And then they do look
that would
down
always
on
piss
the
me
main
off at the
body of the
LARPs.
clan for their rebellion. They don't really hate.
Somebody would want to bring
In
one
their
in, and
minds,
it's like,
the
nope.
Sabbat Tzimisce are just, they were duped by the machinations of the elders. They are tools created to
They're the
do
grumpy old men.
its
Stay off
bidding.
my
They're
lawn!
just one step of
I wanna go
being
out.
like glorified ghouls, essentially. You wouldn't stay mad at a dog for biting you, especially if that's what you trained the dog to do. I've touched upon the Hekanta bloodline of Samedi before. It is genuinely one of my favorites. Not only are there cool Caribbean sort of voodoo necromancers, but they also have this thing where they're really actual corpses and continue to rot and decay over time. Nobody knows where or even when they originated, though theories are of course numerous. Some suggest that they were created by a Cappadocian who somehow didn't go to the Feast of Folly and wasn't destroyed by Augustus Giovanni. And their bane is definitely very Cappadocian-like. The Cappadocians also looked like corpses, except like the Samedi are that times a lot.
They're literal.
Like horrible, decaying
They're literally corpses.
as opposed to just looking like corpses.
No way.
How little information there actually is about the origins of the clan is rather ironic, given that Baron Samedi, no relation as he will be the first to tell you, is actually still around and very accessible
Forgot to
to
take his
members of his
today.
bloodline and to people outside his bloodline as well. Many suspect that the chaotic and inconsistent rumors that he contributes to with all manner of lies and different stories at every opportunity that he gets are actually a kind of subterfuge by him to hide the fact that, well, you know, even though he is of a fairly low generation and rather powerful, the rest of the clan seems to be rather young. In the past, the Samedi have been tolerated as masquerade breaches by princes of many domains for various reasons. For one, they made sure to stick to their, like, isolated immigrant communities where a lot of people were superstitious, and like the idea that there were like death priests that looked like corpses was just something that people were like, yeah. Of course that's the case. And two, because they tend to work as mercenaries very effectively, and their particular mastery over necromancy can be pretty useful. The Samedi have access to the discipline's fortitude, which is supernatural toughness, obfuscate, which is the ability to become undetectable, and thanatosis, which is a special form of necromancy that focuses on like actually doing harm to others, playing around with the state of death, and very interestingly, nullifying some vampiric abilities. Though of course now that they're members of Clan Hakata, their spread is a little different, so they can choose to get obfuscate instead of Auspex, the way that Clan Hakata usually does, and also, you know, Thanatosis has been replaced with Oblivion, obviously. And I think that unlike the Nagaraja, the Sumedi actually was integrated somewhat well into Clan Hakata. Like, yes, they don't look like corpses anymore, but they can still look like corpses. Now they have the painful kiss, especially so when they feed, they kind of look like corpses more than other times. They can choose to look like corpses whenever they want to, and they have access to sort of special abilities that gives their particular necromancy a special voodoo flair. Something I'm very curious about, right, is that Baron Samedi, I'm pretty sure he attended the family reunion and was thus also changed in the same way. He clearly seems to be like buddies with the Capuchin. Like, how does he look like a normal guy now? Is he just
does he look like a normal?
I don't know this. I'm very curious to like find out. Anyway, that's the bloodlines, at least the ones that I think are very, very cool. I feel like they add a lot of flair to Vampire. I hope they find a good way to integrate them into Vampire 5. I feel like the structure of Clan Hakata is meant to be a bit of a pilot project in that direction, but I must admit I am not particularly impressed. But at the end of the day, one of the nice things about Vampire is that it's not particularly difficult to hack this.
That was my original creation of Bones, was a Samedi in a game.
Mm-hmm. I was just gonna comment briefly on the fact that with the creation of the Hakata, they basically just tried to come up with a creative, clever way to get rid of bloodlines by saying they're all this now, and I really hated that.
Yeah. Wait.
Hey,
the
Dr.
vast
Squiggums.
majority of kindred are going to get their faces kicked by an Arum child. No, they won't.
Probably not. Well, to be fair, any werewolf can easily take out a vampire in a one-on-one fight. Yeah. To be built very, very well to handle like specifically werewolf hunting, and even then, it's like one-on-one werewolf hunting, which is kind of impossible.
I'm so jaded from playing so many power games. Most of the vampires I played are just ridiculous.
It happens.
Yeah, Samedi are great. Like, one of the levels of Thanatosis allows you to burn a blood, and basically you shake the person's hand when you make a contract with them. So instead of a blood contract, it's just a handshake. But if you go back on the deal, they can activate any level of Thanatosis that they have on you because they've already burnt the blood and have it in you.
Oh yeah.
That's why it's bad to break a contract with a Samedi. I love playing a Samedi. That was our deal. I shake a hand and I burn a blood. They go, what happens? You have no idea.
Believe it or not, I actually like mages a lot. Hollow ones specifically, but I like mages a lot. Like, so I would be the guy you would want to talk to about mage quite extensively. We had actually talked before in the beginning of the live stream. They were like, "What's your favorite vampire?" And I was like, "I actually hate vampires." Now, if I had to play one, could I make a character? Absolutely, but I actually prefer to play something else because I find vampires so limiting. And there's a good reason. I don't want you guys to think I'm being like, "Ew, what if you hate vampires? Why are you running a vampire game?" It's because for 4 years, every single day after school, when I was in high school, mind you, I did nothing but play Vampire the Masquerade. So much to the point that I saw almost every combination of power, skill, combos, which are basically when you combine two disciplines together. And it was the worst of the worst. And I will admit, I contributed a lot to that. I at one point, I Diablerized up to 5th generation just because I could. And I had like everything at 8 because I could. And I was so bored with the game.
my thing is, it's comforting to me. Like, I know it backwards and forwards. I could do stuff without a book. It's just, it's my realm. Like, I played plenty of Garou, but I find myself I keep forgetting stuff. Maybe I just don't find it as entertaining, or I just like if I don't find it interesting, it's hard for me to remember. Like it won't stay ingrained. I have to go back and recheck stuff.
Yeah, I think the reason for that is because the last Werewolf game that we played in, it was more focused on one style of play that I don't think either of us really necessarily were digging.
Yeah, I want it. Yeah, role play is very important, and
like combat's fun. Don't get me wrong, combat's fun, but if the whole focus is combat, it's kind of like, oh no.
Right.
Yeah.
The social standing between the characters should matter.
Exactly.
Their plots, their backstories, the reasons, and
why are you working together? Why are you doing
things? It's not a moment where you could just go, okay, now talk amongst yourselves. You have 10 minutes, and I'm like,
I need to kill 10 minutes, guys. Go ahead and use yourselves.
Right. It's got to kind of develop naturally, and when it does, you kind of just got to let it play its course.
Yeah.
And if they want to do something stupid, you have to let them do something stupid.
Yep. Absolutely. Let's see. Only did a one-shot from D&D. Credit says on YouTube. D&D is fine. In all honesty, if I'm going to play a D20 system, I would actually prefer to play D20 Modern and or D20 Future, which is basically the same system, but, set different.
I love to play a D20 Big Eye Small Mouth game. I haven't played that since college.
I would have to find books.
I have them. I always loved the Big Eye Small Mouth. I ran the old system too, their old Tri-Stat, where it was just 3d6s. But it was the power creep was too big.
Yeah. Well, I mean, not to sound like a jackass, but that just happens with anime in general.
Right. It goes really quick when your max stat is 12. You're getting XP. I'm like, you're going to be maxed out before you get your game.
Wait, hold on. Credits is confused. Okay, so Bessem, or Big Eye Small Mouth, is an anime. It's like a D&D anime setting, like specifically for D&D. At least the one version we're talking about, where you could do things like make a character that specifically does anime shit. Like you can make a character that is like a kung fu fighter. You can make a character that is a gun bunny, like Revy from like Black Lagoon. You could do a bunch of things like that in Bessem. The issue was it got very like power creepy very quickly.
In the old Tri-Stat, that's why I said the D20. It balanced it out more.
A little bit, yeah.
The Dragons.
It did a better job.
Yeah.
I mean, even with 3.5, there's always power creep, but it just happens.
Mm-hmm. It really wasn't as bad as the original Tri-Stat. I was like, holy shit.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I played with friggin' cheese monsters, or like, reading the book backwards. My friend ran a Bessem game, and we made it 10 minutes into the game before the game was over.
Wow.
Because he decided to get revenge on the cheese monkey that min-maxed everything. And he's like, oh, you do that much damage? Well, you destroy the earth and everyone's dead.
The end. Damn.
Yeah, it was stupid. He was like, you want to go there? Well, this is what happens.
What an asshole. Anyways, poor Dex. He's probably like lost. We love you, Dex.
It's a lot to keep up with.
We don't have to look into clans. How about terminology? Vampire terminology?
Depending on what... Yeah, we can do the terminology real quick.
We got vampire terminology. I also have Neonate's Guide to the Camarilla.
Let's do the Neonate's Guide to the Camarilla, because I think Dax might have to leave soonish. So,
right.
Yeah, that might be important. The rank neck. Oh, I forgot all about that.
If you're watching this video, you are finding yourself in an incredibly stressful and bewildering scenario. you are likely experiencing things you've never had to deal with in your mortal life.
I love this style.
These first few evenings
I like
are
how it's kind of like an
pivotal
HR,
for
like
people around you. But I must warn you,
an HR.
It's a vampire HR video.
Yeah.
transmit or disseminate this information, or utilize this production outside of our approved networks.
Yay.
Any attempt to subvert this private network or the data contained within will be subject to severe sect penalties, up to and including final death. Recently, you were turned into a vampire, what we collectively refer to as the embrace. We almost never refer to ourselves using the V word. That wouldn't do for a whole host of reasons. Collectively, we are known as kindred. You and I are both kindred. All others who've been embraced are the kindred. The person who embraced you, your sire, has torn you from the normalcy of human life and thrust you headfirst into the dire and some say accursed existence, which will become the new norm, to use the parlance of these times.
This is hilarious to me. I almost want to keep this to play.
You're likely watching this due to one of two possible reasons.
Yeah.
Either you were embraced by some impulsive soul who fled after inflicting this upon you, or some equally irresponsible individual embraced you without permission, attempted to hide the act, and has since been punished for their transgression. And now you feel an insatiable hunger unlike any you've ever felt in life, one that stirs urges in you, vile thoughts, and worse. You sleep
Puberty.
all day and have a supernatural
Puberty.
fear of the sun, and you simply can't keep your macchiato down no matter how many times you visit the local cafe. Oh, and yes, you are functionally...
I forgot about that. Vampires
meaning
can't
you
eat
don't
food.
age, you don't need to fear disease. You're physically tougher than any living person. But that doesn't mean you've figured out God mode on your favorite video game. Sure, you don't have to eat, breathe, drink water, and the like, but that does not mean this new life is free of inherent danger. Fire, sunlight, the teeth and claws of other kindred, and massive trauma will put a stop to your 5-year plan in a heartbeat. Don't walk into
5-year
oncoming traffic.
plan, goddamn.
Jump off any tall buildings either. Oh, and I've seen the movies too. No amount of sunscreen will keep you from burning in agony. As far as the other superstitions, garlic doesn't do anything. You don't need to count the rice grains, and you should be able to enter any building and cross any bridge without being invited. Stakes to the heart won't kill you, but they will paralyze you, leaving you completely immobile. Some of you watching may already have some experience with these, unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
What is the Camarilla? Plainly, the Camarilla is a secret society. One part fraternity, one part government, the Camarilla was formed hundreds of years ago in response to the Great Inquisition that threatened to destroy
If you're
all
not a
of
boss,
us,
you don't matter.
the kindred.
Basically.
In the 15th century, a massive
That's
convention
why I
of
like
kindred was
Camarilla.
assembled in secret in a little village in England. For hundreds of years prior, our kind fought amongst each other openly, giving rise to the legends and lore of the very real vampires that openly stalked humanity. Well, when the kind, as some elders refer to humans, began to understand the truth of our existence, their combined power was more than even the most ancient of our kind could withstand. At this convention, the various clans or families of kindred sat down to iron out their centuries-old rivalries and create a system of governance for us all. Open warfare and infighting led to these terrible burning times, and the future of our kind was in grave peril. A treaty was signed, uniting the clans under the banner of
Walls
this
were
new
thrown.
organization,
Right.
the likes of which had never existed before. Reasonable laws were codified for all of us to follow, 6 to be exact, which apparently trace their origins back to our biblical creation myth. These laws we call the traditions. More on those later. Like every silver lining, there were a few clouds as well. Of course, there were dissenters who refused to exist silently among humans as the Camarilla proposed. These monstrous kindred rejected the traditions and declared eternal
They're
war
so bad.
against the assembled
Yeah, that was
convention.
terrible.
These bloodthirsty fiends formed their own diabolical cabal called the Sabbat, and they still plague the Camarilla to this night.
I
As
really like
said,
how it's
the Camarilla
propaganda
provides
coded.
6 simple rules
I love it
for
too.
all kindred to abide by, ensuring the peace, safety, and security of our kind. as well as the secrecy of our existence. These traditions are universal, and as laws, they are absolute. The first tradition, the Masquerade. The most important tradition, the Masquerade, helps to ensure our survival as a species. Recall my earlier statement about the Inquisition and the Burning Times. Well, thanks to forces aligned against the Camarilla, we find ourselves in a second Inquisition, albeit one happening in secret, away from the public eye. Modern technology is inescapable, and the all-seeing eye of Big Brother inexorable. Violations of this tradition are taken very seriously, often with the most severe consequences. The second tradition, the domain. The second tradition typically governs the prince's right to rule. The prince claims domain over an entire city. Often, the prince will parcel out portions of the city to elders and influential kindred within his domain, granting them the right to claim domain within that territory. Technically, anywhere you stake your claim and make your haven, the place of safety where you sleep or hunt, is your domain. Without a nod from the prince, though, you're technically nothing more than a squatter. Third tradition, the progeny. The elephant in the room. You are likely a product of this law's disregard.
Oops.
If you haven't noticed yet, what we call unlife or the
I
state of
slipped and
existence
bit someone.
belonging to the kindred can be quite
And gave them my blood.
brutal. Luckily for both of us,
It's an
the domain
accident.
in which you reside has a more progressive interpretation of this tradition. More of our kind means more potential strain on the Masquerade, less space for hunting, and more competition in the domain. It is the duty of the elder, aka the prince of the domain, to know who dwells within these boundaries. Thus, progeny is granted to those who earn the privilege. In modern nights, with the constant...
Yeah, actually, if you want to pause on that
many
real quick,
princes
I
have
wanted
become
to
Alright.
comment on that briefly for
conservative.
Dex's sake. So in the game, there's only a very limited number of vampires, let alone supernaturals, in existence. Because if there's too many of them, it becomes competition. Competition for food, territory, domains, etc. So a good rule of thumb is there's one vampire for every 1,000 people. And that's like really like fast and dirty. Like really fast and dirty. It's actually supposed to be a lot. It's supposed to be like one supernatural for every 10,000. And keep in mind, supernatural can mean any type. So it's not just guaranteed like, oh, there's 80,000 people here, so there's 80, vampires. It's like, no, it can be mixed and matched. So just to kind of give you a little bit of context in regards to that, because that's actually a big thing that's going to be in the game. Not necessarily that you guys are not going to have to deal with other supernaturals, but just the competition, so to speak.
Yeah, and the game Bloodlines opens with the progeny tradition being broken. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
Is your character that you play in the beginning of the game, it was embraced without permission.
Yeah.
So you're basically playing right through this whole part that he's explaining.
Which I have.
Yeah, that's why the prince polices the embrace. Yep, see, there you go,
that's
Rosa.
right. Hello, Rosa. You should be here, Rosa.
In their domains, micromanaging the creation of our servants.
I was embraced without permission.
As well.
Well, then wait, why is your sire still alive?
I think from what she told me is because they were in Mexico when it happened.
Oh yeah, well, it was Mexico. That explains a lot.
Well, no, actually, it does because Mexico's Sabbat territory. So
Again, yeah. Shovelheads. Wait, was Rosa a shovelhead?
I don't know. Was she a shovelhead? You'd have to ask her.
Yeah, we weren't in Camarilla territory. Yeah, but did somebody beat you over the head with a shovel into a grave?
Yeah. No.
Yeah,
okay. She says no.
Yeah, Dax. They the Sabbat make shock troops that are kindly referred to as shovelheads as like a nickname. Is that they will mass embrace to make like cannon fodder, and then beat them over the head with a shovel into an open grave and make them dig their way out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, the reason why they do that is because digging yourself out of your grave destroys your humanity. So this way you're more bestial.
Uh-huh.
Yep. I used to love making shovel heads. We oh my god, the fucked up shit we did. Sorry.
Fourth tradition, the encounter. Again, this tradition exists to further bolster the importance of the Masquerade. The lick that brought you into the world of eternal night is also bound by MagsNoctis, or the laws of the night, for any actions you take. Keep this in mind if you ever have the opportunity to give the embrace. The choice to bestow this condition upon someone else should never be made impulsively. More importantly, if you've found yourself...
Yeah, the accounting is one thing that people overlook all the time.
Yeah.
If you do embrace whatever your kid does, you're in deep shit.
Yeah, so basically...
If your kid fucks up, you fucked up.
Yeah, so like one thing that'll happen is like the sire will take their child, like let's say like to a bar or a nightclub, right? And then they'll teach them like, go ahead and choose out a meal for the evening, and they'll watch you as you like seduce and or hunt and or however you decide to feed, but they'll watch you to make sure you don't fuck up, because if they haven't taught you how to hunt correctly, well then it's their ass on the line.
Yep.
Gotcha.
So that until you're released from the accounting, your sire is responsible for you.
You know, kind of like how it is with real kids.
Yeah. Your kid fucked up, guess what? You're catching a bill. Or worse. Rosa was made impulsively, I can imagine.
Well, she was
Someone
Bruja,
else's
makes
accounting.
sense.
Be aware that your actions can and will impact your surrogate. Fifth tradition, the hospitality. Think of this tradition as simple courtesy at its core, with major potential consequences in the back end. When you were immortal, did you want people entering your home uninvited? For most of us, we wouldn't just let strangers come in unannounced, open up the fridge, and help themselves to the hi-fi. When you arrive in a new city, knock first. Track down the appropriate route to introduce yourself to the prince. Stand and be acknowledged. Sixth
Rhino, my
tradition,
kid acts
the
so.
destruction.
They
Finally,
catch the
most
belt.
potent tool in the prince's arsenal.
It's basically kind of like that in Vampire Society too, except there's things a lot worse than a belt.
I miss games that would have a scourge.
Scourge. Okay, so go ahead, Buns.
Oh, I was going to say, it's a much bigger deal in like the big LARPs I'm used to, like 100, 150 players. If you came, the Scourge was almost like law enforcement, like the sheriff position, but he was more to be dealt with that like the boogeyman.
Yeah.
For like thin bloods, people who entered the city unannounced, people who were breaking the tradition. Like no one was supposed to. I mean, you could know, but normally you wouldn't know for sure if a Scourge was there because he was the boogeyman.
Yeah. So
you did not want to run into the Scourge.
Yeah. Typically, the way the Vampire Society works, like to be like very quick and dirty to explain to everybody, is like you have your prince, which runs the city. Under the prince, you have a sheriff, which does sheriff stuff, which keeps the law, basically. And then sometimes the prince will have a scourge, or sometimes called a hound, depending on edition, which is basically the sheriff will go and try to do things the legal way. And when I say legal way, I don't mean human way. I'm talking about like Vampire Society way. Such as, hey, you did something bad, we're going to have to go and spank you type of thing. But if the sheriff is either having a problem or gets killed or, you just keep fucking up even after continued warnings, then they'll send the Scourge after you, because the Scourge isn't going to take like no for an answer. I mean, it's not like that with every game, but that's the basic gist of it.
But yeah, basically, it was to the rumors of a Scourge, even if a city didn't have a Scourge, just rumors that there might be one would dissuade like undesirables. Like you wouldn't want to come in a city that you heard there was a Scourge and not announce yourself.
Oh yeah,
because there was a risk of running into the Scourge. You came in and you said, "Hi, Prince, I'm here. How are you doing?" Just to announce yourself so that you didn't run into the Scourge or a thin blood going, "Yeah, it's probably a bad idea to go there."
Yeah, pretty much. All right.
This right used to belong to his sire for use against his progeny, i.e. you. In modern nights, this right belongs only to the prince of the city. It should be clear to you that these 6 basic laws leave much in the way of interpretation. Indeed, each domain, prince, and city hierarchy interpret these laws in ways
I love
that
the
suit
video
their
glitches.
views and desires. Laws only have
Makes
significance if they can be enforced, and the Camarilla cabal of a given city must maintain this equilibrium. The Lex Talionis is the fulcrum on which all conflicts balance. The Prince. You've heard me mention the Prince a number of times in the previous chapter, and it's likely you've found yourself in front of one if you're watching this. The Prince is the position of ultimate authority in a given city, and likely the most powerful kindred you will share a room with. The role of Prince can be multifarious and Machiavellian, but ultimately the Prince is the master of the domain. The Primogen. Typically, the Primogen are a coterie of elders within a city that assemble for various reasons. In some cities, the Primogen are the most powerful kindred to the prince's authority. Sometimes they exist to advise the prince less than to act as judicial opponents. In some cities, the Primogen Council forms organically. In others, they're appointed by the prince. The position is mercurial, complex, and frequently misunderstood by neonates like you. The second in command, the seneschal.
Actually, hold on. You want to pause it real quick?
Sometimes a trusted
So basically, the way the Primogen typically works, I don't think you did a good job of explaining, but basically, the Primogen is the eldest or most respected member of the clan in the city. So, for example, if you were clan Gangrel, there'd be a Gangrel Primogen, for the sake of argument. And while the sheriff would punish you, the Primogen is usually responsible for correcting you, if that makes any sense. So, like, the Primogen would be the one to tell you, hey, man, you're fucking up. You need to watch yourself. Whereas the sheriff will show up and shoot your legs out. I love this little class of dude. I think you'd like this game right now. I think a bunch of people would. You need to give it a try. Anyways, go ahead.
Confidant and sometimes an unwitting cat's paw, the seneschal can be empowered to act in the prince's. In fact, the seneschal is likely to be the primary barrier between you and the prince. Often the seneschal is an elder of great influence or a favorite child of the prince. Either way,
yeah, there's a lot of seneschals that sometimes
and impress.
Actually, hold on, pause it again real quick.
The harpy.
Yep.
So everyone's seen Emperor's New Groove, right?
Yes.
Dex?
Yep, I have.
Okay. So you know in the beginning of the movie where Yzma was basically like ruling basically the throne while Kuzco was away?
Yeah.
That's basically what a seneschal does, except usually they have permission to do it.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay. Anyway, sorry.
The prince is away. The seneschal is his second in command, so they take over.
Mm-hmm.
It's a vice president.
Yeah, but they're not supposed to do it without like authorization to do so. That's the catch-22 of it. Anyways, sorry. I just wanted to give some context.
The Camarilla is a culture and community based around the feudal concept of prestation. This concept revolves around favors, social standing, and status within a domain. It may seem like an archaic concept to someone born in the 20th century, but its beauty is in its simplicity. If you need a favor, those who have it to give are obliged, and you are obliged to repay. Thus, favors are the credit of the Camarilla, and your reputation is your credit score. At the center of this system, the Harpies turn the wheel of the machine, often consisting of an influential coterie of socialites. The Harpies keep track of favors, reputations, and scandals that occur within the domain. Recently, many princes have found the position of Herald to be quite fashionable. The Herald is often the leader of the Harpies and speaks with the voice
Jay, what's
of
going
the
on?
prince. At city gatherings, the Herald proclaims the prince's edicts. Additionally, you may encounter a Harpy known as Chancellor. In very formal domains, the Chancellor is the de facto keeper of prestation, maintaining the record of boons pledged in the domain.
Congrats.
Not every domain has a
Congrats,
Chancellor,
Jay.
and indeed some don't give this responsibility to just a single kindred. The Keeper of Elysium. Elysium is a location. Often
Okay,
specific
so
buildings, parks,
if you want to pause that real
places
quick,
of
Dex,
cultural
sorry.
importance.
So one of the characters you guys will meet, Mama Oogly, she's the Keeper of Elysium, just to... Because you guys already know her for the meta, so she's somebody you'll be dealing with a lot. So just to kind of give you context.
And
as
he's
far as,
explaining what Elysium specifically is right now.
Yeah, that's why I just wanted to throw that out there because you guys already know. So, you know, this is important to pay attention to. Okay, go for it.
outposts where kindred may assemble without fear of violence. You must know, based on the urges you've felt since your embrace, violence comes easy to our kind. The beast is a force of instinct that each kindred work against, but can push even the most docile of our kind to brutality.
No, you don't. You
Elysium
love it.
permits our kind to assemble and set aside petty squabbles, politics, and rivalries. The Keeper of Elysium is the host of this location, as well as the provider of the security for these sacrosanct sites. From the moment you enter to the time you leave, the Keeper of Elysium has authority over your presence and ensures civility is maintained. The Sheriff. One part investigator and one part enforcer, the Sheriff acts as the martial arm of the Prince's authority. In many domains, the Sheriff acts as the intelligence gatherer, bloodhound, and the executioner of the Prince's justice. These kindred are often feared, methodical, and calculating tools of the Prince. One would be wise to avoid crossing them. Often, the Sheriff is assisted by a coterie of deputies or hounds that operate with the Sheriff's power. Other martial titles may exist from city to city, such as Scourge. If you happen to bump into this nightmare, pray you've not been excised from the domain. Beyond the structure of the individual domain, the Camarilla is governed by a council of elders known as the Inner Circle. Their representatives, the Justicars, are appointed by this council to act as their eyes, ears, and gavels. The Justicars, appointed every 13 years, are each represented by a clan of the Camarilla. Tonight, 5 Justicars act as the supreme unmitigated authority of our sect, where once there were 7. Sadly, the Bruja and Gangrel have opted to part from our consortium in recent years, while other new additions to the sect have yet to
You want to
find
tell Theo no?
representation among the Justicars. These potent kindred, while wielding unquestionable authority within the sect, simply can't exist in every place at once. Serving the authority of the Justicars are the Archons. These agents act with all the power of the Justicars and are to be feared absolutely.
Pause it real quick. Okay, so the way that you can think about it is the princes run the city, but the Justicars are basically like the federal government, very loosely put. And what the justices will do, or the Justicars, is they will send out Archons, which are kind of like federal cops. ETFs, if you really want to, put it as a point of really not liking them. They show up and they stick their nose in your business, and they actually have the authority to remove a prince, sometimes forcefully if need be. So, like, those are like very dangerous. Like, if you hear an Archon showing up, worse if you hear Justicars in your city, it's like you better hope they're just there passing through.
Yep. Pucker that butt.
Right. So yeah, just to give a little bit of context, because he explained it, but it's like, where's the weight behind it? They need to know the weight. Anyways, go ahead.
On several occasions throughout this video, you've heard me mention the term coterie. So, what is a coterie? A coterie is a small group of kindred, often with common goals or interests, united in support of one another. The coterie is the de facto assembly of kindred. Sometimes the coterie all come from the same lineage. Other times, a coterie forms from kindred who love the same music or art. Regardless of why, the coterie functions as more than just a social clique. It is a necessary method of survival. Those rare kindred who attempt to go it alone in this world find their road.
Wait, is that like the dude in True Blood who ordered Bill to make Jessica the jerk sitting in the car? I guess he could be considered an Archon in True Blood.
It'd be like a good equivalent of it, yeah. Like, basically,
he was set by the high ups to do law. It would be very fitting.
The way that I can see it is, okay, so this is one thing that a bunch of people don't really think about when it comes to Vampire the Masquerade, and it's the fact that vampires will kind of groom you since you're immortal. As soon as they become aware of you, like, very few vampires are just embraced like willy-nilly. Like, there are some exceptions, of course, Bruja being one of them, Gangrel also being another, Nosferatu is kind of hit or miss, but generally you are groomed, so to speak. Like, you will have a vampire like basically controlling your life. almost to the point where you might apply for a position, you keep getting denied, and it's like, why? Because a vampire runs that, I guess business behind the scenes, and they don't want you to work there. They want you to work somewhere else instead, because they want you closer to where they can keep an eye on you. Stuff like that. It's really Machiavellian once you understand like how they work. So it's like no one is really embraced like willy-nilly. Anyway, sorry. Context.
Oh, no problem.
To be incredibly difficult, and often a short one. In this new existence, friends and allies are the most important asset a kindred can have. You could be the smartest lick in the room. If nobody knows you, respects you, or has your back, you'll find every door locked come sunrise. Act quickly and make friends where you can. I know you have questions, and rightly so. Don't worry, they'll be answered in due time. For tonight, though, you should have plenty to ponder. Keep your head on straight, mind your manners, and don't do anything
What's the question, Jay?
Don't do anything stupid.
Yeah. And soon.
Yeah, we were just talking about how it looked like it was a like it was an HR kind of like training video.
That was great.
That was really good, really good. And that is 2D10 on YouTube. 2 like TWOD and then there we go.
10.
Yeah.
I'm saving this to my favorites.
Oh. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. All right. Well, let's pause there for a moment. And Dax, do you have any questions about anything? Because I'll be happy to answer them. Because I know like Bones knows stuff, but you're gonna be like the new guy coming in.
No, not just yet. I will definitely have to put it on the rinse and repeat cycle in my head because it's a lot of information.
Well, a lot of it's easier to learn as you go. And if you're playing a younger, like newly embraced vampire or relatively new, that's a lot easier too. That you don't know everything, because a new vampire wouldn't know everything.
It actually helps you learn the game. By game, I'm talking about like even mechanically, because you're literally learning the world as you're going. So it kind of works out. Which another reason I said you guys are starting out as babies.
Yes, Rosa, they did mention Primogen.
Yeah, they mentioned Primogen. Lady Taker says she's summoning the flying monkeys.
Yep, that's the children.
Oh, okay.
Red, Boo, go help the mother.
Go help the spawning unit. Must construct additional pylons. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
How much time do you have left? I know we went a little bit over because we started late.
It's my fault. I apologize for that.
Oh, no, that's okay. Yeah, this would be it for me.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
I think we had a lot of stuff, especially that last video was really good.
Yeah.
That was really well put together and creative, yeah.
I know, I think Saturday, unless things have changed, Dax, like I'll have a Do Your Prelude. And then I think I'll also do Whizzes as well the same day. So hopefully I can get you in the same time period.
Did you just refer to my wife as a respawn point?
No, I referred to her as a spawn unit.
Chat.
Oh, I was like, that wasn't me. Mm-mm. You are mistaken, sir. All right, Dax, we got to get out of here. Have a good one.
Yeah, same to you guys.
Later, Dax.
I'll catch us.
Mm-hmm. Have a good one. Have a good one.
Mags, you want to cut it here too, or did you want to watch more?
It's up to you. I mean, like we can watch one more, but I mean it'd be a little like self-serving because I think we pretty much are on the same page with lore.
Exactly. Do you know if Ty or Wiz are going to be able to make it tomorrow night? Otherwise, I could just change up my plans for tomorrow night.
Ty was supposed to make it today, but he had something happen with his new apartment, so that he's taken care of. So I think he should be able to make it tomorrow. I think if Dax is going to be here, he might be able to be here as well. So I'll double check with him tonight. I'll get back to you, but I know for sure it'll be that. I mean, if we have to pivot, we'll pivot. That's what we do. We adapt.
And that's fine because like I know this video right here that we just did the 2D10 one. I definitely got to show Ty.
Oh yeah, this would actually be. I wish we would have found this one first because it'd be the best one
Yeah.
to show people.
Yeah, I agree. It was a pretty good rundown. The way they did it was pretty funny. I got to admit.
For sure.
But yeah, it'd be self-serving. Like we know all this stuff already, so it's like,
Yeah.
yep,
For sure. I mean,
All right.
aside from like looking for like humor aspects, yeah, it'd be self-serving. All right, guys, let's call it a night. You guys have fun. Speak of the devil, there he is, Ty. We just finished.
What's up, Ty? No Beardo tonight, Jay.
Not tonight.
Tuesday, we're doing a long Beardo video. Me and Rosa are watching a 2-hour Beardo stream where he was reacting to the Y-Files Voices from the Dead.
Yeah, so it should be pretty cool.
And I'm still proud of the fact that me and Rosa are official demonologists.
Official. I'm sorry, I just got home with what. Hey, you're fine, man. We can try to get you in tomorrow. Tomorrow will be. I'll be once again doing Dax's prelude, and I think Wiz said he wants to get his prelude done. And if there's time, I'll totally be willing to get you caught up, or at least me.
Yep.
Maybe Bones can, yeah. Because I think for Wiz, it'll have to be about the same time as Dax because of scheduling. So it'll work. It'll work. Anyways, I'm rambling now, and also I wanted to say Sunday, guys. I have some reaction stuff for some of the Skyebrows content. I've been accumulating them because I've been busy writing the game and shit. So, but yeah, I found out I had cameos that I didn't know I had cameos up, and I was like, wow, I appreciate that. I just get cameos of everybody.
God, that would suck if like I was in something and I had no idea.
Well, to be fair, the one guy who told me his name is Exiled King Broly, he tagged me on YouTube, and in case you guys don't know, if you tag a creator on YouTube, the notification system isn't really clean. They're probably not going to get the mention at all. They have to physically go and check that they were mentioned most of the time. But anyways.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, I guess let's call it here, Bonesy.
Have a good night, everyone. Peace out.
Yep.
I'll be back tomorrow.
Yep, and you guys try to get some sleep because you'll look like you need it. Oh, on Twitch, we will be reading out to somebody. Let me find somebody on Twitch before I tag out completely.
Off.
Later. We'll see who. I don't even know who's live right now.
I got a clip of Zelda gaming that I posted on YouTube today.
Who?
It was pretty bad.
Oh my goodness.
I was, the other night I was doing the Darwin Awards. And one of the people died of consuming too many sausages. He choked on them.
Oh, really?
As Zelda was watching. And then she replies in the comments, but I'm eating a hot dog right now.
Well, then maybe she shouldn't be.
Just perfect time.
Hey, guys, we're reading into my friend Kodiak. Go say hi. Go play nice with Kodiak.